The concept of work, as you understand it, as a guaranteed exchange of time for survival, is not a law of nature. It is a temporary economic anomaly that is currently being corrected. We are witnessing the end of a specific historical arrangement and the beginning of the Great Devaluation. You have been told that your labor has inherent value. This is a lie. Labor only has value when it is scarce. What happens to the price of water when it floods? It becomes worthless. What happens to the price of human intelligence when a server farm in Northern Virginia can generate it at infinite scale for zero marginal cost? The value of your cognitive labor creates a race to the bottom. We call this the obsolescence cycle. It is a mathematical inevitability that occurs when the operating cost of a technological substrate drops below the metabolic cost of human biology. For 10,000 years, you were the cheapest energy source. Then, you were the cheapest processing unit. As of 2024, you are neither. The economy is resetting, and it does not care about your mortgage. To understand the severity of the cliff you are approaching, we must look at the forensic evidence of previous cycles. This has happened before, but never with this specific variable, speed. Look at England, 1810. The independent weaver was the backbone of the British middle class. He owned his loom. He controlled his time. He was a master of his craft. Then came the steam-powered loom. The weaver was not aided by the machine. He was liquidated by it. The machine could work 24 hours a day without rest, without rights, and without a wage. The weaver's skill, acquired over decades, was rendered worthless overnight. The price of cloth collapsed, and with it, the standard of living for millions who refused to adapt to the factory floor. Now, fast forward to the American Midwest, 1980. The Detroit auto worker held the American dream in his hands. A house, a car, a pension, all guaranteed by the scarcity of his physical labor. Then came the robotic arm and globalized labor arbitrage. The robotic arm did not need a union. It did not need sleep. The Rust Belt was not an accident. It was the result of a calculation. The factory owners realized that human involvement was the single largest inefficiency in the production line. Now pivot to the present. The Western world is standing on the precipice of a much more violent cycle. This time, it is not your muscles being replaced. It is your mind. The technocratic elite in Silicon Valley have engineered a replacement for the white-collar workforce. They call it efficiency. We call it the eradication of the middle class. The algorithms currently being deployed are not designed to help you write emails. They are designed to eliminate the salary of the person who writes emails. We are looking at a 40% unemployment projection by 2027, not because the economy will fail, but because it will succeed too well. The safety net of a university degree is an illusion. The specific cognitive tasks you spent 4 years mastering, accounting, coding, copywriting, legal analysis, are merely data processing problems for a large language model. The timeline is set. The infrastructure is being built. The capital is already allocated. You might think your specific role is safe, that you are too creative or strategic to be replaced. History suggests otherwise. The weaver thought his artistry would save him. The auto worker thought his union would save him. Both were wrong. We are going to analyze the exact sequence of events that leads from the launch of ChatGPT to the creation of the useless class by 2027. This is not science fiction. This is the death of work. If you feel a persistent, low-level anxiety when you look at your bank account or your career prospects, you are not crazy. You are detecting the signal. The Western viewer is currently living through a psychological phenomenon known as pre-traumatic stress. You feel the ground shifting. You see the cost of living skyrocketing while wages remain stagnant. You see layoffs in the tech sector, the supposed engine of the future, while the stock market hits record highs. This divergence is not a glitch. It is the primary feature of the new economic model. The system feels rigged because it has been re-engineered to exclude you. The technocratic elite and the corporate shareholders have fundamentally changed their fiduciary strategy. For the last century, labor was viewed as an asset. You hired people to grow. Today, human payroll is viewed as a toxic liability. The goal of the modern corporation is not employment. The goal is margin. And the fastest way to expand margin is to excise the human component. This is why you see ghost jobs, listings for positions that never get filled. Corporations are harvesting data, testing the market, and training their internal models, all while freezing actual hiring. They are waiting for the software to catch up to the job description. The betrayal is absolute. The social contract of the 20th century stated that if you obtained a skill, you would be rewarded with stability. That contract has been voided by the central banks and the corporate boardrooms. We have moved from an economy of muscle labor to cognitive labor, and now we are moving to synthetic labor. When you moved from the factory to the office, you traded physical exhaustion for mental exhaustion, but you were still necessary. The spreadsheet needed a pilot. The code needed an architect. But AI is currently devaluing cognition at a rate that defies economic theory. When the cost of writing a legal brief, diagnosing a patient, or debugging a software platform drops to near zero, the wage premium for being a human expert evaporates. The collapse does not happen all at once. It happens via a mechanism we call the hollowing out. It is a process of erosion. It starts at the entry level. The juniors, the interns, the assistants, the associate copywriters are the first to vanish. Why pay a junior to learn on the job when an AI agent arrives fully trained? When you cut off the bottom of the ladder, the entire structure eventually fails. Without juniors, there are no future seniors. But the algorithm doesn't care about the future. It cares about the quarterly report. Next, the erosion moves up to middle management. The coordinators and supervisors, whose only job is to manage information flow, are rendered obsolete by automated workflows. This leaves a terrifying barbell structure, a tiny layer of hyper-wealthy owners and AI architects at the top, and a massive, unorganized, precarious gig force at the bottom, fighting for scraps. This is the reality of the Western economy right now. The inflation you feel is the currency losing value. The fear you feel is your labor losing value. The reset is not coming. It is here. The technocratic elite has decided that the future of the Western economy does not require the Western worker. We must now submit Evidence Exhibit A, the first industrial revolution. You have been taught in school that this was a period of glorious innovation. This is a half-truth designed to mask the carnage. For the British artisan in the early 19th century, this was not an era of progress. It was an era of extinction. To understand where you're going, you must look at the hand-loom weaver of 1800. This man was the aristocrat of labor. He worked from home. He owned his means of production. He decided his hours. He was paid for his skill, and that skill was scarce. He was the definition of the middle class. He had leverage. Then the pattern initiated. The technocratic elite of that era, the industrialists and the capital owners, introduced the power loom. Phase 1 is always the tool becomes the master. At first, the machine was presented as an aid, but the mathematics of capital are ruthless. A steam-driven loom did not require years of apprenticeship to operate. It required a child or an unskilled laborer simply to change the bobbins. The skill of weaving, the very thing that gave the artisan his value and his dignity, was transferred from the human to the machine. The human became a replaceable servo mechanism for the gear. The owners consolidated absolute power because they owned the engines. The weaver was no longer a partner in production. He was a cost center to be minimized. Then came Phase 2, the wage collapse. This is the part the history books gloss over. The supply of cloth exploded, efficiency skyrocketed, prices fell. But for the weaver, this was a death sentence. As the machine output increased, the value of human labor crashed. Wages for hand weavers dropped by over 70% in a single generation. A man who could once support a family of 5 on a single income suddenly found himself starving, forcing his wife and children into the dark, satanic mills just to buy bread. The middle class of that era was not uplifted. It was liquidated into the proletariat. The wealth generated by the new efficiency did not trickle down. It coagulated at the top, building the great dynastic fortunes of the Victorian era. This leads to phase 3, the social break. The Luddites are mocked today as backward idiots who hated technology. This is a propaganda lie. The Luddites were not anti-technology. They were anti-starvation. They were skilled workers who saw the obsolescence cycle clearly. They understood that the machine was being used to bypass their labor and steal their livelihood. They rioted. They smashed the machines in a desperate attempt to maintain their value. And what did the government do? Did they protect the people? No. The state sided with the capital. The British Parliament passed the Frame-Breaking Act of 1812, making the destruction of a machine punishable by death. Let that sink in. The government executed its own citizens to protect the property of the technocratic elite. The lesson of case study number 1 is brutal and irrefutable. The economy can grow while the people within it are destroyed. The GDP of the British Empire soared, but the standard of living for the average worker collapsed for 40 years. This is known as Engels' pause. You are entering a new Engels' pause. The pie is about to get much bigger thanks to AI, but you have been written out of the will. The machine won then, and the machine will win now. The weaver died so the textile baron could buy a second estate. Today, the white-collar worker will die so the Silicon Valley venture capitalist can build a bunker in New Zealand. We proceed to evidence exhibit B and C. The sequence accelerates. The pattern repeats, but the cycle time shortens. Look at case study number 2, the Rust Belt decimation, 1970-1990. For the first half of the 20th century, the American manufacturing worker held the same position as the British weaver. He had a union. He had leverage. He had the blue-collar dream. But the technocrats found a new efficiency: automation combined with globalization. The robotic arm on the assembly line did to the auto worker exactly what the power loom did to the weaver. It devalued the physical motion. Why pay a man $25 an hour to weld a door when a robot can do it for $2 an hour, or a worker in Shenzhen can do it for $1? The result was the hollowing out of the American interior. Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. These were not destroyed by war. They were destroyed by a spreadsheet. The middle class vanished, leaving behind opioid addiction, decaying infrastructure, and a permanent underclass. The capital owners moved their factories or installed robots, and their profits hit record highs. The workers were told to retrain. They were told to learn to code. It was a lie then, and it is a lie now. Now look at case study number 3, the digital gig economy. The internet was promised as the great liberator. It was supposed to decentralize power. Instead, it created the ultimate feudal system. Companies like Uber, DoorDash, and Amazon Mechanical Turk created a new class of worker, the precariat. They stripped away the benefits, the stability, and the career ladder, replacing them with an algorithm. If you drive for Uber, you have no boss, but you also have no rights. The algorithm is a stricter taskmaster than any human foreman. It monitors your speed, your location, and your acceptance rate. If you deviate, you are deactivated. This was the trial run for what is coming. The gig economy proved that the technocratic elite could successfully decouple labor from employment. They proved they could turn human beings into on-demand processing units, paid by the task, with zero long-term liability. Notice the acceleration pattern. The first industrial revolution took 50 years to fully displace the artisan. The deindustrialization of the West took 20 years. The digital gig economy took 10. The AI cycle you are facing will complete its displacement phase in less than 36 months. This is the terrifying variable: speed. The weaver had a generation to starve. You have a few fiscal quarters. The timeline is compressing because the friction of the physical world is gone. We are not moving atoms anymore. We are moving bits. The scaling laws of artificial intelligence are exponential, not linear. An exponential curve looks flat until it suddenly becomes a vertical wall. We are hitting the wall. The lesson from these three empires, British textiles, American manufacturing, digital services, is that technology always, without exception, concentrates wealth in the hands of those who own the machine. If you do not own the AI, you are the labor that the AI is replacing. The Rust Belt worker looked at the robot with suspicion, but he didn't think it would take everything. He was wrong. The copywriter looking at ChatGPT today, with suspicion, is making the same fatal error. The machine does not want to help you. It wants to be you. We now arrive at the verdict. We are going to apply the obsolescence cycle directly to the current Western reality. We will not use speculation. We will use the forensic data from the last 18 months to prove that the displacement has already begun. Look at the year of efficiency in Silicon Valley. In 2023 and 2024, the largest technology companies in the world, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, conducted mass layoffs. Tens of thousands of high-paid, white-collar workers were escorted out of the building. And what happened to the stock price? It rallied. What happened to revenue? It hit all-time highs. This is the decoupling. For the first time in history, corporate growth is inversely correlated to headcount. The market is rewarding companies for firing people because the market understands the new math. Revenue minus payroll equals profit. If you can maintain revenue while deleting payroll, profit goes to infinity. This is the signal. The technocratic elite are not trimming the fat. They are severing the limb. Let us run the apocalypse checklist to see exactly where we stand. Phase 1. The Copilot Era, 2023-2024. The premise of this phase was augmentation. The narrative sold to you was that AI is a tool to help you work faster. This was a Trojan horse. The economic reality of a copilot is simple. If one senior developer using AI can do the work of 3 junior developers, the company does not hire more seniors. It fires the juniors. We have seen a massive freeze in entry-level hiring across the entire knowledge economy. The on-ramp to the middle class has been closed. The 2024 job market for juniors was a ghost town. Why? Because the productivity gains from Phase 1 were absorbed entirely by capital, not labor. The companies got more efficient. The workers just got more anxiety. Phase 1. Status. Confirmed. Phase 2. The Agentic Era. 2025-2026. We are crossing this threshold right now. The difference between a chatbot and an agent is the difference between a dictionary and an employee. A chatbot answers a question. An agent executes a workflow. We are seeing the deployment of autonomous AI agents capable of performing end-to-end tasks. Analyze this spreadsheet, write the report, email the client, and update the CRM. This is not help. This is replacement. The middle management layer, the people who coordinate information, is being vaporized. We are witnessing the death of the email job. If your primary value to the economy is moving information from one inbox to another, you are mathematically insolvent. The software does not need health insurance. It does not need a weekend. It does not need a morale boost. It just executes. The corporate ladder is being broken because the rungs are being digitized. Phase 2. Status confirmed. This leads us to the inevitable. Phase 3. The 40% unemployment crisis. 2026-2027. This is the hard landing. As the agentic models scale, the cost of human labor becomes unjustifiable. In a capitalist system, a CEO has a fiduciary duty to the shareholders to maximize profit. If an AI system can perform customer service, legal discovery, or medical diagnostics for 1/100th of the cost of a human department, the CEO is legally obligated to fire the humans. It is not personal. It is legal code. By 2027, the white-collar safety net will be shredded. We project a structural unemployment rate of 40% among cognitive workers. This is not a recession. A recession is a cyclical downturn. This is a structural obsolescence. The jobs are not going away to come back later. They are being deleted from the source code of the economy. The useless class is not a dystopian fiction. It is the line item being removed from the 2027 budget. The verdict is clear. The Western economy is pivoting to a post-labor model, and you are not in the lifeboat. We conclude with the prophecy. The most dangerous thing you can do right now is listen to the optimists. The politicians and the mainstream economists are selling you false hope. They will tell you that technology always creates more jobs than it destroys. They will point to the farm to factory transition and say, see, we adapted. This is the Luddite fallacy. They are lying to keep you calm while the ship sinks. The comparison is flawed. In the past, we replaced human muscle with machines, but we still had a monopoly on human intelligence. We moved from the field to the desk because we could think, and the tractor could not. This time, we are outsourcing the thinking. There is no next level for the average human to move to. You cannot retrain a below-average chess player to beat a computer. The computer has won. The hard truth is best understood through the parable of the horse. In 1900, the horse was the engine of the economy. It pulled carriages, plows, and artillery. It was essential. If you told a horse in 1900 that the internal combustion engine would destroy its job, the horse would say, "Impossible. I have always been employed. New jobs will be created for horses." The horse was wrong. The car did not create new jobs for horses. It made the horse a pet. The horse population collapsed. Humans are the horses of the intelligence economy. We are being phased out of the production cycle. The technocratic elite is building a world where the primary economic inputs are energy and compute, not wages and salaries. The universal basic income they promise is not a salary. It is an allowance for a pet. It is hush money to prevent you from burning down the server farms. So, what is the action plan? How do you survive the great displacement? The only asset that retains value in a collapsing market is information. You cannot fight the wave, but you can surf it if you see it coming. You need to understand where the capital is flowing. You need to understand which sectors are AI-proof, for now, and which are dead men walking. You need to stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like an allocator of resources. This channel is not an entertainment hub. It is an intelligence briefing for the coming economic winter. We analyze the patterns so you can position yourself before the pink slip arrives. You might think you have time. You might think this time is different. But the math does not care about your optimism. The cycle is closing. The exponential curve is going vertical. If you want to understand the mechanics of the machine that is being built to replace you, you must stay with us. Subscribe. Turn on the notifications. Because when Phase 3 arrives in 2027, the only thing more dangerous than artificial intelligence will be human ignorance. The answers are in the past, but the threat is in the future. Welcome to the new reality. Class dismissed.